positive things in all three segments. That's what was really encouraging, is how well we played. First of all, it all starts with the defense, right? The defense held them, and we started off the game, not very good. Start off the game 3 and out, and then a punt that got, shanked to the right, and defense gets to start. I think they started on our side of the field, just barely on our side of the field to start the game, 45 or somewhere close to that, and defense does a really good job of holding them to a field goal right there. So that was a big tempo setter right there in itself, and obviously allowed us to, stay patient and do what we wanted to do on offense. And from that point on, we pretty much, did what we needed to do. We controlled the clock, ran the ball, threw the ball. Gavin was 10 of 11, threw the ball well, and did some good things throughout that first half to get that lead. The score there towards the end to get us up 10-3 was really big for us. And so, went into half 10-3 and playing really good football. And then they came out and put together a really good drive in the third quarter, mixed in some tempo to what they were doing and put together a nice drive and converted on that big third down during that drive. It was a third and extra long, and converted it and then finished their drive. But then we responded really well from that point on, again, offensively, defensively, as far as reestablishing the offense and putting some good drives together, and then obviously pinning them down there and getting the punt return for a touchdown. That was really good execution. That was led by good offensive possession, good defensive possession. Obviously pinning them down there first of all, and then having a good defensive possession, and then getting a good punt return. So the special teams played a big part in that touchdown, as well as both sides of the ball. And then that last drive, where we took the ball for 9 minutes plus and ran the ball. We were in 2 tight ends every play on that formation, on that whole drive. Whether it was there was 1 2-back, 2 tight ends, the rest was 1 back, 2 tights, and the offensive line just did a great job, but so did Trent and Zach. They did a really good job. But throughout the whole day, the running backs ran really, really hard, and it was really a nice compliment getting Ray back in the backfield a little bit. And because of some of our other receivers are stepping up, it takes a little bit of pressure off of Ray, and we can use him as a running back because he's just as good a running back as he is a receiver, and he really showed that in the game. But Dion and Ronnie ran really hard. They create a lot of yards after contact, a bunch of yards after contact, and allowed us to put together a drive. I don't know if I've even been, we've had a lot of drives like that before where I've been, but I don't know if we've ever had anything as impressive as a nine-minute drive when the game's on the line, and then to piggyback it again with one to close out the game and get first downs when we need to close out the game again was really, really good football for our offensive unit. So, like I said, Gavin played really well, really managed the offense extremely well, and was pleased with the outcome. So it was a good win for us. Got us, back to, 2-2 in our non-conference slate, which is, with the type of games that we had, you put together 4 non-conference games. None of them were fun events for us, right? I mean, a rivalry and 2 perennial powerhouse teams, and then another Mountain West opponent. So it wasn't like we had any gift games, this year in our non-conference by any means. So to get us back to 2-2 there, and now get us back to a conference road game, leading into the conference road game, which is really big game for us. Obviously, we have the long travel that leads to the games in our conference when we play teams on the East Coast. I think Charlotte's a great setting. I love that stadium. I love the setup they got there, so it's a good place to play. We just need to, manage the trip and manage the time difference. The game's obviously starting, later, our time, 4 o'clock our time, but 7 o'clock Eastern time out there, and so it'll get us. We'll have to acclimate to that with getting up, a little bit earlier than what we're used to as we go through the week and go through the game, Friday, Saturday schedule. Charlotte, like always, really athletic team, got a lot of team speed on both sides of the football. have a new defensive coordinator this year, and he's establishing his system there, and they're getting better all the time within the system and how they're playing. They've had a tough schedule. You know, their record is probably not, and it isn't anywhere indicative of the type of team that they are, because they've had, again, they haven't had any, you know, 1AA opponents or anything. Well, they did have one, but they have a good one, you know, in William and Mary, who's a good football team, and their starting quarterback was out. You know, Charlotte's starting quarterback was out for that game. But the rest of their slate's been a pretty, you know, difficult slate, some tough teams, and you know, they had a big win over Georgia State in one of their games. So again, it'll be you know, trying to handle Reynolds, the quarterback's always you know, he's always a handful. He's very athletic and very much of a really good creator. Their receivers are you know, they got really good speed at their receiver position, so that, you know, definitely will be a challenge. One of their games this year against Georgia State, they passed for 401 yards in that game, so they definitely can throw the ball and move the ball and have a really good offense. And as I said, defensively, they got tons of team speed and lots of athleticism on the defense, and so that'll be a challenge for us as well. And like I said, a road conference game, they're all, as we go through this whole schedule, every game's going to be, you know, the rest of the way, every game's going to be a, you know, a battle. I mean, that's just what they are. And so, you know, we're looking forward to going to Charlotte. And our big quest is to go down there and play really good, fundamentally sound football, and do what we do best, and execute our schemes, and play good in all three segments again. So I'll open it up to questions from there.
Do you feel like you kind of developed an offensive identity in this game? What kind of is that?
Right. You know, I think when we were sitting here a week ago, we said, hey, let's get back and do what we did. You know, let's get back and do what we did. And so what we did this week in the Boise game was really what we had done a lot last year. You know, just tried to control the clock and then take the things that are there for us. You know, we ran the ball, you know, probably better in this game against Boise than we did any time last year, but we, you know, we do want to run the football, and so when we can, we will, and so that takes a lot of, that lets Gavin really start being able to pick people apart, and we pick. You know, we were able to pick and choose our shots, and obviously we hit the shots that we needed to hit, and that converted some really good third downs as well. And so that part of it was, you know, a good identity for us. So it's obviously, we'd love to do what we did, you know, all year. I mean, that's obviously, when you have a big win like this, you'd like to emulate that as much as you can. And I think more like anything, as a team morphs through a year, you kind of figure out, hey, what's their identity? What do we do best? And like we've talked about before, Brett, our package is so expansive that we can do whatever fits, you know, whatever fits our personnel. And so if we have a personnel that throws the ball well, last year, second half of the year, we threw the ball well and threw the ball more than we ran it, because that fit the personality of that team. And this year, this might be the best thing for us to do this year, is just, you know, run the ball more and control the clock more, and do the things that we did Saturday. So, you know, obviously there was success from it, and we'll see, you know, how it goes through the rest of the year.
How does that, I mean, like you said, controlling the clock and running the football, how does that maybe shift your defense a little bit? You know, they're leading conference USA in the total defense right now, so
yeah.
How do what they do?
Yeah, they do. And, you know, really, if we would have protected them a little bit more, their stats would probably be even better, you know, which we've traditionally done, you know. And so I think the more we can do that, the more it gives them the opportunity. But the thing that we have to do is what we did, you know, score points too, because when you score points, it puts pressure on the defenses, you know, puts pressure on the offenses to try to do more aggressive things against our defense, and that allows our defense to have the opportunity to get, you know, more big plays and more disruptive plays. So definitely want to continue to try to do that, you know, as we go through the conference play right now, is to establish that kind of identity. But you know, anytime you have 40 minutes plus of field time of possession, it's hard for an offense to get any kind of rhythm. You know, I mean, you just can't. You know, you can't get much rhythm when you only have the ball 19 minutes plus. You know, it's just very difficult. But that's a two-way thing. Sometimes a three-way thing is time of possession. It's not just offense; it's defense, offense. You know, working together.
Coach, looking back at the game film, was there anything that you saw that was a pleasant surprise that took place on Friday that you would like to see that to be continued or to grow more to obviously help the team a little bit?
Yeah, I'm really pleased with the way some of our new starters are playing on defense, and that was probably obvious from watching the game. As players of the week defensively were Cal Wallerstedt and Elijah Johnson, right? And those are two guys that didn't play last year. Two new guys, one, Elijah being redshirted last year as a redshirt freshman, and then Cal was, down the line a little bit. So to see those two guys step up and make the plays that they made was really good for us as well. And I think Tyreek James is playing really, really well at that weak safety spot. And I'm really pleased with the way Latrell Shelton is playing at the other corner spot. And then Josiah Allen is playing some, he can play nickel or either corner spot. And then he did some really good things on special teams. So some of the new additions really have stepped up and got better and better. For what they're doing to help the football team. And then offensively, as I mentioned, Trent and Zach Fryer just dominated the edge of the defense, with their blocking throughout the whole game, and that's really a weapon. Most people don't have tight ends that block very well, and these two guys can really, they're kind of the unsung heroes of when you see us run the ball like that out of two tights. That's because we're grinding out the C gap, we're knocking the C gap back, and then people can't stop you if you're able to do that in your run game. So those two guys played really well.
Coming into the season, there was a lot of hype around this team, and some of the players said those first few games really humbled them. Coming off of being good like Boise State, it'd be easy to kind of get carried away with that. How do you kind of keep the emotions at bay and really just focus on what's ahead?
Yeah, it's really important, Rachel. We tightened up on the little things last week. We made sure a bunch of the little things that had maybe slacked a little bit got tightened back up, and so we're going to really try to stress that as we continue to move forward. And we had to talk after the game about just one game doesn't mean anything right now. We just got to stay consistent with what we're doing.
Do you feel that this week handled prosperity better than since they've started this season?
Well, I don't know. It remains to be seen. Where we go from here. You know what I mean, and how we move forward after this game, and where our team moves from the confidence that can be gained from this, but also we got a lot of tough games ahead of us, games that are going to be really hard fought. And so again, it's really fun for those kids to have this, and it's something they'll remember for a long, long time. Win over a program like that, but there's a lot more work for us to do. So right now we're just staying locked in and trying to get better and try to have a really good Tuesday practice tomorrow. That's our big focus right now.
Last year, you all had some pretty big names on the defense. Walter Neal, of course, you had guys like Davion Inyang. This year, you had a lot of guys step up who've been developed through the system. How would you compare last year's defense to this year's defense? Yeah,
it's interesting. Because we had Walter and Tin, who you talked about, that were really experienced, and Josh Caldwell, that were really experienced, and so those guys were savvy, really savvy players. I think so. We miss them, right? They're all missed. They're all really good players, but the defense has taken a new identity because of that. And not having Breon, is obviously a huge loss. And so we've lost. Defense has taken some hits, right? We lost Toy Richardson, our starting corner, at the very beginning of the season, and so we've taken hits defensively, but the new guys that have stepped up have really done a nice job, and I think we're very athletic. When you talk about Kobe Hilton, he's so athletic, and he's one of our best players, and then Elijah Johnson has a 38-inch vertical, so he's he's just a freshman, so people really haven't got to see what he can do, but he's fast and explosive, and he's playing good, and the Latrez is big top. So we're more athletic at a lot of those positions right now. We're just not the savvy as those guys were, but we're very athletic at those positions. So I think the athleticism is starting to show itself.
I guess two-part question. First, you brought up Breon. Is it officially not coming back?
Not official. No, not official. No, not yet.
We talked on the radio pregame last week about Beard potentially coming back this week, or is he kind of after coming back?
Yeah, he's good. He dressed out and was at the game Saturday, so he's good. He's good that way. Yep.
Obviously, every game is important, but now heading back into conference play, does that bring a different level of intensity to this week?
It does. It's a road conference game that definitely is going to take a lot of focus for us, and it just gets us momentum, going in, because we got back-to-back road conference games, which again, to finish out our 7-game sweep here that we've had to start the season, and now it's a 2-game road trips, and so it's going to be really important that we play good football, in this game. So it's a very, very important game to our schedule right now. Obviously because it's the next one, but just because it's a big game for us, and it's important for us to go there and play well.
I just want to go back to the running game. Ran the ball a lot against Boise State. I guess, are you happy knowing that you've got a trio of
yes.
guys that can run the ball?
Yes, I want to have 3. I always want to have 3, and it was nice because Ray hasn't been getting any reps there, right, in games, and then just to go in there and just run like he does. I mean, because he does some really cool stuff with the ball in his hands. I mean, he's just a really, really talented running back, and so to add him into the mix, and Dion and Ronnie, they ran so hard. Their 2 safeties are NFL draft picks. 21 and 0 are going to get drafted high in their secondary, and they are physical, hard-nosed tacklers, and Ronnie and Ray and Dion were taking the fight to those guys, and so it was really fun to watch our backs run that hard.
I'll beat the dead horse. 26-1 in the Eastern Time Zone. A, how sick are you having to talk about it? And B, just
Oh, I'm not sick of talking about it at all. You know what I mean? It's obviously a goal for us to try to get that. That's one of those goals that you have that you want to try to get behind the program, right? And so that's the challenge this week, and so that's more motivation for us for sure. Just because we got to be locked in. It's a long travel, it is, and so we have teams that are going to be coming to our place. We have 2 of them coming to our place this year, from Florida, and so it's not an easy thing to handle, and so we got to be really serious about our preparation and get prepared for it all week, and then handle the time adjustment that plays into it, because that's the one factor, is just getting used to playing at a 3 hours different time, and you have to get up, so if we get up at 10 o'clock there, it's 7 o'clock our time, right? So that's, there's your schedule stuff right there immediately, so you got to get used to that. So.
Which is that a statistic that your players are working?
No, they don't. They're not. No, I don't even think they know unless you guys tell them about it. But they're just locked into playing Charlotte and know the challenge that Charlotte brings to us for sure.
How much better is Charlotte with that quarterback?
Oh gosh, he is such a good player. I mean, what year is this? His 12th year of eligibility, I think. He's been around forever, and he's such a good player. And they're really good with him. He makes so many things happen, and he just can do so many different things. And he's very crafty, and he has a lot of confidence. He plays with a ton of confidence, a lot of swag to him, and he's just a really, really tough challenge for teams for sure.
in terms of, you brought up ballet in your opening statement, but the art of punt returning, I guess, what is that and what makes it?
He's super competitive. Marcus is really competitive, and when you saw his tape from the junior college, you could really see how dynamic he was. And then it's really starting to show as a receiver now. He's just inching his way up the depth chart because he just makes all kind of plays at practice. When you go to our practice, 21's diving, making all the diving catches, and he's just a scrappy, competitive, intelligent football player. And so he uses that savvy in all aspects of his game. But punt return has that. Punt returners are just a different type. You're either good at it or you're not, and they're kind of a rare breed, right? And he's just got that savvy to doing it. And Marcus is still, just a sophomore, which is really cool. And so I'm excited about watching him continue to improve.
What'd you like from Jeremiah Ballard this weekend? I know in the first half, very productive. Second half, you've been kind of a decoy.
Yeah, and what happened is, he just is, again, he's a guy that's, his top end is through the roof, right? I mean, he's just when you see him in his uniform out there, he's just really impressive looking athlete, and he covers a ton of ground with his strides. I mean, that touchdown pass he caught, it looked like it was in slow motion. It was just so effortless, right? But he just got to his landmark on the crossing route so easily, and he's such a big target for Gavin to see out there with his height and his size, and so he just makes things kind of look effortless, but he covers a lot of ground when he does it. So he made some key catches for us, and it allowed us to use Tyron as a decoy too, because obviously Tyron was one of the top receivers in the country going into the game. And so, as I had mentioned, Coach O'Hara did a really good job of decoying Tyron in the game, and it allowed some of the other guys to get open, which was really important for us as well.
You guys have only put up 6 points in the first quarter, 5 games into the season. I guess is getting off to a great start still something high?
Yeah, it just our team seems to do feed off of that, and I think all teams do, feed off of fast starts, and it's important for us to try to get some momentum in some of these games. Again, road games, it's nice to always in road games to start off fast. The positive thing, as we were talking about, is that, we've had to overcome a lot of adversity to get to where we are right now. And so I think our team's equipped to handle falling behind. You know what I mean? I think we're equipped to handle that because we're kind of staying within ourselves and handling, because we didn't start very well last weekend either, the way I talked about. So I think we're equipped to handle it, but it sure would be nice to start off fast, and sure is a goal of ours to start off and score more points early in the ball game. Absolutely.
You mentioned Cal Wallerstedt earlier today. What has his emergence been like?
Just really, really impressive how he makes plays, and he just, kind of slithers his way through holes, and it's just really difficult to block, but he just prepares so much. His big thing is a lot of guys on the team can learn from Cal, because Cal knows the defense better than anybody. He coaches a lot of the guys out there up because he just studies it, and it's so important for him to understand the aspects, the little things of the game. And so guys can just look back and say, okay, he might not be the most physically impressive looking player, but he's done a really good job of getting himself into great shape. He's in much better shape than he's ever been. He's at a good playing weight, and so he looks good, but he's not the 6'2" linebacker, but he just knows how to prepare himself, and he knows exactly where he's supposed to be, and that makes a big difference in this game. Football is a different game. You can have that it factor in football, and you don't necessarily have to be the most physical, freakish guy. You just have that it factor, and so he's got that it factor to him for sure.
Coach, how do you feel about El Paso high school football players such as Flores doing the types of things that he's doing, and the motivation that he brings, and the excitement that he brings from a time when people would say, well, El Paso high school football's not at a level that could be at Division I?
It's a super good story. It really is. It's a really good story about Ray, and I do think about that, how cool it is for El Paso to have a guy that walked onto a program and then earned his way up and has proven himself into being not just a good player, but really this one of the premier stars of our program. Probably one of the most valuable players in our whole program. I'm not ever going to say somebody is the most valuable, but he's one of the most valuable programs, and his leadership is just, if everybody in the city could see the way that kid leads this team, and how he makes sure, if someone is even if someone might have the right intentions of leading. There's an example this week. One of our players had the right intentions of leading, but he didn't know exactly how to do it. Ray he kind of steered him in the right direction on how to lead, and so his leadership skills are just outstanding as well.
Talk about your past defense has been kind of surprisingly good this year, considering what you had to replace us. What kind of tests do they face? And
Yeah.
how pleased have you been with?
Well, I've been pleased, obviously, but I'm obviously know it's going to be a huge test this weekend. It's going to be a huge test down the stretch, right? I just watched some other teams in our conference throw the ball over the field on some really good opponents, and so it's going to get tested, and so we got to continue to work and improve on that. When I say improve, just because again, no matter how we've done to this point, we're going to face some really stiff competition on teams that can throw the ball well, and this will definitely be a week where we're facing a team that again, they threw for 401 yards on Georgia State, and Georgia State's a very good football team, and so we're going to get tested huge this weekend. So it's a big challenge for us.